Hello again. Welcome to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook. I'm here each week with Mark as we talk through some of the issues of retirement. I bet there's some questions that you have out there, and might be something simple like, when do I file for Social Security? Well, we'll talk about that today. It might be that you're nervous about the stock market. We'll talk about that today. We got a lot to talk about because there's so many different aspects of retirement planning, and try to do this on your own. Sometimes you kind of get over your skis on that. So let's bring in a guy who goes through retirement every day. Mark, how are you doing today?
Great, Randy. I'm just so happy and excited to talk to a lot of different people out there today.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of need. There's a lot of need for what you do, Mark, because I know that, there's plenty of information out there. There's the internet out there. There's retirement calculators out there. Yeah, sure, you can go out there and try to do all that yourself. But at the same time, wouldn't you want to have somebody who goes through retirement every single day? Mark has helped a lot of people do the very same thing that you're going through right now. So let's get his kind of take on things. And we're going to actually start with the stock market today. And I'm not going to go into the ups and the downs of the stock market, but one of the things that people do as they get to retirement, and we've heard this, is you should move your risk level down. You shouldn't be investing at 65 like you're 25, and that makes total sense. But what some people are doing is they take that a little too seriously. They take all of their money and they push it into bank accounts, they push it into cash, they push it into bonds because they don't want to have anything to do with losses in the stock market. So the article that I'm looking at here, Mark, says that can be dangerous because if you don't have the growth that you need in retirement and you do so much to protect your money, preserve your money, you might run out of money. So is that something that you worry about, that you see, and that you have to fight against and plan through?
I'm so glad you brought this up because, there are times you get really worried about what if the market corrects because it hasn't had a correction in 17 years. Mm-hmm. Or what if we have a recession like 2000 to 2002 where the market dropped 49%, or 2007 to 2009 where the market dropped 56.5%. I don't want that to happen to me. And people think about that. They really think about that. And they worry sometimes and they say, you know what? I've always been conservative, saving my money. Let me take it out of the market, do these things, and get really conservative. Well, the risk you run is interest rate risk. So right now, interest rates are still a little bit high, right? But you can tell they've leveled off with vehicles like CDs. When you look at CDs across the board, you're looking at levels that weren't as high as they were a couple of years ago. So that gives you an indication right there that maybe things are changing a little bit. Well, you don't want to tie yourself into a program where maybe you're not getting enough interest that keeps up with the rate of inflation. And that's where it could be a problem with running out of money. And that's where people get worried. And that's why you need a plan. Mm-hmm. So we always stand by that acronym. And we talk about this, Randy, P.I.G, preservation, income, and growth. If we do preservation tactics for the income you need, and we do this properly, and then we have plans for taxes and inflation, then we can grow everything else, and you might not be so concerned about what happens in the market.
There is so much worry about the stock market because, we put our money in 401ks. That goes into the market because it's index funds, it's mutual funds, all that stuff. So we look at the market going up and down. We see our money go up and down. We don't want that to happen in retirement. Mark, can we say this, that if you have your income locked down, and you know that the daily need is there and the income is there to do the stuff that you want to do, doesn't that take a certain amount of pressure off how much I have to be in that market and some of the uncertainty of it all?
Yes. Yeah, of course it does. And that's what you want to do. You want to get rid of the uncertain areas. If you're out there and you have 5 years left to retire, or you're just in retirement and you're concerned about your assets, or you're concerned about the fact you don't have an income plan, or you're a little bit worried about what are my unexpected expenses in retirement, let's put those to bed. Let's put them to rest. Let's actually get the answers for you. That's what I do for a living. I was talking to a couple of different folks. I do some Zoom meetings in some other states, and we get some answers for folks that they're looking for someone. They're looking for someone that might be able to help them. And what do? Well, you already know. I'm on two sides of the business. We have the fiduciary standard of care of the business, which is the brokerage side of the business, which is your stocks, your bonds, your ETFs, your structured notes, things like that. And then what do we have? We have all of the insurance side of the business. So you're talking about annuities, life insurance, long-term care, Medicare supplement. And then, of course, what do? We do comprehensive financial planning because we worry about if you don't have that plan in place, how we can affect you in a positive way in your life, right? And that's what our intention is, to help you retire and how to do it sensibly.
If you look at any article about retirement, many times you're going to find everybody's afraid of running out of money. We all have that fear, apparently. That's the number one thing that keeps coming up year after year after year. I don't want to run out of money. Well, is it possible that your fear of running out of money is because your money's at too much risk? You've got a lot riding on it in that stock market, just hoping it goes up when you retire and hoping it stays up while you're retired. Is that too much to hope for? Probably. And we'll say this, you've heard it many times. Hope is not a strategy for retirement. Let's do the math on your retirement. Let's get it down black and white on paper. And you know what income is coming in and you know what your risk level is. That's what it is to sit down with Marc and start to hammer away at your retirement plan. Let's get that going. Here's our website. It's moretoretire.com. There you'll see a place where you can put some information in there. Marc and the team reach out. Questions start. Let's get the conversation going. Moretoretire.com, or skip all that and just call. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 for a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. All right, so one of the other big issues about retirement is certainly, when do I file for Social Security? And I found a guy who wrote into one of those advisor columns, and he calls himself the Social Security soothsayer. And he says, I don't know why people don't take their Social Security early. It makes complete sense to me for these three reasons. A, you don't know how long you're going to live. B, the program's in trouble. You hear about it all the time. And all the solutions involve cutting back benefits. So why not take it now? So the person who he had written into said, yeah, you're right. But on another side of the coin, you're not right. So there's a lot to think about here. Yeah. So, Marc, what would you say? I think he's got a good point, but I think he's got probably 3 or 4 other points that he's not considering. What do you say to this one?
I'm probably leaning towards what he's saying because I think that I have a lot of concern for the fact that the trust fund for Social Security will be exhausted by 2032 if they don't fix it. And I talk about this at financial presentations all the time. If they don't fix it, Randy and I have discussed this many times on the show, that their plan is to reduce it by 28%, 7% per year for 4 years. What a plan. Thanks, guys. So, no, I mean, that's the government for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, people think, take it early or whatever. Well, there's a reason why I even think about taking it early myself too. When I get to that point, is it's always a hard subject for me. But my father-in-law, he passed away at 61 before he could turn it on at 62. My mother-in-law passed away this year at the age of 71. I can't remember for sure if she turned it on at 65 or 67, but that does not make up for the labor that she put in over all those years. And that alone tells me, you know what? Maybe I'm thinking a little more short term, because you don't know. You don't know when you're going to be called home. You don't know when that's going to happen. And that's the thing. Just discussing this, there are some drawbacks. Randy and I have discussed IRMA before. That's always one of the drawbacks because, number one, if you turn on Social Security at 62, you're not there at Medicare, right? But then at the same time, you have to limit how much you make in income. So that's another thing. You get penalized. So these are the different subjects we talk about. Now, if you retire at 65, you turn on Social Security and you turn on Medicare at the same time, perfect, easy, right? But then they look back 2 years and they say, okay, how much did you make? Okay, if you're over these levels, then you're going to get hit with a little bit more of a premium for your Medicare B, and then you could get a Medicare Part D surcharge. And that could happen for 2 years because obviously those 2 years, and particularly you made more income, and these things can occur as well. So there's always some drawbacks or some things you might be prepared for planning and retiring. But at the same time, you might look at it and say, you know what, I don't care about that, and I'm going to do Roth conversions. So I am no respecter. I'm here to help you plan.
Yeah, I think that some of the little bumper stickers that we see sometimes out there in some of these articles, you can take it to heart and it makes total sense. People usually retire and take Social Security. They just say, I'm going at 65. That's when I'm taking Social Security. And that's how they make their decision. Or someone will say, hey, if you take it at 62, if you live past 73, you did it. Or if you take it at 70, you got to live past 81. You did it. Or you can pass along your 401k. You can't pass along your Social Security. I hear that stuff all the time, and it seems like those are the things that people base their decision on. But Mark, your Social Security decision is an income decision, and it has to be made in tandem with the rest of your retirement plan. Tax-wise, legacy-wise, there's more to it, isn't there?
There's so much more to it. And yeah, I love that you said that in tandem. It is. Let's prepare for what if they pulled back on Social Security by 28%. Why don't we put that into the plan? Mm-hmm. Why don't we also put in the plan that we need to be prepared for taxes and inflation and be ready for these types of things? Because if you didn't prepare, and let's say you were retired, in 2018, and all of a sudden we had the wreck of massive inflation in 2022, would that have affected that person? Of course it would. And so if we don't prepare and get ready and make preservation tools for your income and use it in tandem with your Social Security, get prepared for Medicare, see what kind of premiums we're dealing with. What if you retire at 59 and a half or 62? What does your insurance look like? What do your premiums look like there? We need to be prepared for all of the above. I can get you from 59 to 62 to 65. You have to show me your buckets of money, and I have to look at it, dive in, use my noodle, and have a conversation.
It's time to talk about your retirement and really get down to it. I mean, you've been putting this off for a while. Let's have a conversation, because you may be 1 year away, 3 years away, maybe even 4 or 5 years away from retirement, but now you're starting to think about it. All of these things are jumbling around in your head. Why not just take some of this confusion off the table and do the math on your retirement? That's what Mark can do for you. Give him a call. Let's have a sit down and do the math on your retirement. Moretoretire.com is the website. Tool around there, find out more about Mark. You're going to see the 5 steps right there. We'll talk more about that. And then we'll also, you can put in a little information there, and the team will reach out to you and say, what's on your mind? What's got you concerned? You want to talk about Social Security? Let's get that on the table. 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or again, moretoretire.com. So when it comes to our retirement money, there are those of you out there that are following this really, really closely. You're probably a spreadsheet person. You've got all of the charts and the maps and everything. And at the end of the year, I made 6.7% and the market made 6.5. How about that? Okay. Yeah, okay. I know you're out there, and good for you. You're paying really close attention to your retirement. But what you might not know is that there could be some things pulling you backwards that you aren't seeing. And I'm looking at an article in Forbes, and it says, taxes are invisible. The market gives, the tax code takes away. And then they ask this question at the end of the article: does your advisor and is your advisor paying attention to taxes? So, Mark, let's talk about that. You can have all the investment gains that you can, but if you're losing money to taxes, what good is it? You got to have it both going at the same time, don't you?
Yes. I mean, let's just be clear about this. If your income plan is not preparing for taxes and inflation, then you're behind the game. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to talk about here is, how do we go about this? How do we have this conversation? Well, it's not hard. All of us can look up tax brackets, get an idea of some things. You can kind of gauge what kind of taxable event might occur in your portfolio, based on what you're taking for income and things like that. As we stated earlier before as well, IRMA, that's related to modified adjusted gross income. So there's a lot of different subjects here, and we want to be prepared for taxes and inflation. And if you want to do some Roth conversions, we have clients that have some brokerage accounts with me that will have an IRA and a Roth that's unfunded, and we'll start to fund it whenever they're comfortable. You can fund it and then pay the taxes out of pocket, or you can have them withheld directly. It's not hard to figure out an effective tax bracket. We're not the experts of the tax code. Those are CPAs, those are accountants, right? We don't draw up estate plans. Those are attorneys. But we can work with them, and we can gauge some things. And as a financial planner, if you're not doing comprehensive financial planning and you're not receiving that, we want to help you have that. And that has a lot to do with taxes.
I think that as someone listens to a show like this, they're going to say, oh, I know what they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about IRA to Roth conversions. I've heard it all before. And there's more to tax planning, though, Mark, than just that. I mean, having your RMDs figured out, at that point in your life when Uncle Sam says to you, you got to start taking this money, and to make sure at that point you're not getting hammered in taxes because you might have been taking $30,000 out of your investments per year, and then you get to age 75 and all of a sudden they look at you and say, oh, now you have to take 60 or 70 or 100, and all of a sudden you're moving into another tax bracket. There's a lot more to this than just dealing with your 401k. That is an aspect, but there's more to it, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, you might have an appreciable business or property out there that is worth quite a bit. And I know a group that I can refer you to. They've got some stuff that they can do that is just fantastic. And I love to pass out those referrals. If you have a ticking tax time bomb and you're worried about what you're going to pay in capital gains and stuff like that, let's have a conversation. Let's see if I need to send you out to that referral, because we know a lot of people. And what our objective is to partner and help people and make sure they get into the offices of the right people. I might not do everything for you, but I certainly can get you in the right direction of everything you might need for the financial aspect of what you're trying to accomplish. And with regards to regular taxes, yeah, there's a ton to think about between capital gains, between the effective tax rate, between how much are you paying in taxes. Hey, have we stayed below this particular figure so we don't get hit with IRMA? All of this stuff matters, right? All of this stuff will take effect. But the question is it worth it to go in there? We can look at all those figures and we can answer those questions. And to be honest with you, yeah, if you don't want hefty RMDs in the future or required minimum distributions, we can have that conversation and talk about what you can do differently. And that's what we want to do. We want you to come in and we want to show you how we're different than what you're doing right now.
Yeah, that's one of the big things about retirement is how things change. Your whole life you get paid a paycheck. Those are wages. That's income. Okay. So you get into retirement, you're not working for somebody anymore. And now the income that you're getting is withdrawing from a 401k, selling an investment. It's different ways of being paid, and all of these things have different tax consequences and probably stuff that we're not used to. So if you have a plan in your head how you're going to get paid in retirement, why don't you come in to see Mark and sit down and talk through that and figure out, is this going to be a tax problem? Here's the number on the website, moretoretire.com. Pretty simple, moretoretire.com, or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. While you're there, check out the steps to more. And Mark, let's go through that a little bit, because as people go to the website, they kind of get a little taste of what you're going to ask them, what they're going to be doing when they sit down for an appointment or two with you, and kind of go through that list there for me.
Sure. It's 5 steps. It's very straightforward. We start with the treetop view. I talk about this constantly, how we look at it as a macroeconomic style. We're looking at buckets of money and trying to understand what you've done to this point, what you want to do now, and what you want to do in the future with that money. And then what we do is we combine that with step 2, which was discovering your retirement desires, because we want to know what's going on, what you want to do, in your 60s and 70s that you probably are not going to want to do in your 80s, like traveling and things like that. We want to understand how we can affect your life in a positive way in that way by pulling that together. And then step 3, customizing a personal plan for you. And that's what it is. It's all customizable. You can come back and edit. We can work together. Remember, I'm not the boss. You're the boss. I'm just here to help. So then step 4 is your adjustments, your switches, your changes, all of those things that we know we have to do because we have to be consistent with the environment we're in, which is if we just stay put, we could get stuck in the mud, and we're not going to do that. And step 5 is going to be ongoing support. When you work with us, you become part of our family. You become part of the Moore family.
Well, as Mark goes through that and you say to yourself, I don't know all that. Okay. If we do this, we sit down and kind of go through that process, I'll bet that on the other end of it, you're going to know a little bit more about your retirement than you do right now. Let's get that going. No cost or obligation, 984-300-1984, 984-300-1984, or use the website moretoretire.com. There's a place for you to put some information in there, and Mark and the team will reach out to you. So one of the things I like to do here on the show is to show you how Mark is different from somebody else that you might sit down and talk to. And one of the things that we'll talk about here that Mark has that other people may not, and that is Market Guard. It's a series of portfolios that allows you to kind of tailor your risk level. And we talk about risk an awful lot. Are you a person who likes a lot of risk? You can handle a 10, 20, 15% pullback, or are you really uncomfortable with that? There's a portfolio for you. And the CIO at Market Guard is Brad Jenkins. And Brad kind of talked about how to prepare if you are afraid that that market is going to turn.
Am I prepared when that next correction happens? I love this quote from Warren Buffett. He said, Noah built the ark before it started raining. You don't want to wait for the floodwaters to start rising. Then you're reaching for your hammer, your nails, your wood, saying, we got to build a boat. Hurry, hurry, hurry. It should already be done. All you should have to do is say, hey guys, this rain's not stopping. Why don't we get inside and close the door? And then as those floodwaters rise, you're already built and prepared for it. And so I think a big thing is we don't want people to get caught and to get caught off guard. So at Market Guard, what we really believe is we want to create this strategy that's going to enable them to get that growth they're looking for, but to already have that defense ready to go. So when that market gets nasty, they've got something and they've got a strategy and a plan that's already in place.
If those of you who are out there who are Boy Scouts, you remember, be prepared, right? That was what we always said as a Boy Scout, be prepared. And that's kind of what we want to do in retirement. But he's kind of talking about that fear that people have that they will lose their retirement money to a market event and being prepared ahead of time. When he talks about building the ark for your money, what's he talking about here, Mark?
Well, first, let's address the elephant in the room. Everybody should understand that I work with a group. They're called Market Guard. They're a group of chartered financial analysts that create custom positions, and I'm one of only 300 advisors that's able to use that in the entire country. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that fact because these people work really hard behind the scenes to put these together, and my objective is to not be like them. It's to be putting the pieces to the puzzle, fitting them in the right spots for folks, and that's what we do based on understanding risk tolerance. I don't punch it into a computer and the computer tells me what to do. I use my brain. I listen. I have human emotion. This is not AI here. You're dealing with a human being that really cares about what you're telling them. So with that being said, I'll say that one of my favorite strategies is the Market Guard 100 model. It's the pure equity model. It's called Market Guard Opportunity Model. They also turned it into an index to be able to use it in their structured notes as well. On the stock model, they effectively will change the positions quarterly. So 4 times a year, the positions are changing. Mm-hmm. The reason why are market conditions. You get the signals, you switch to top 100, and there you go. It's always in 100 different stocks. You could have some times where it pulls back more, but times where it also grows more. But as a whole, what it does is it lowers the beta. The beta is in the risk part of your portfolio. And to make sense of it, S&P 500 is a standard 1.0 beta. If you're higher than that, it means there's more risk. Our beta currently is right in the neighborhood of around a 0.89. So that tells you we're running at a lower risk level. Mm-hmm. And so I like that. I like that in retirement, but it still has a very similar wobble effect. So the range, the standard deviation range for S&P is around a 14. And right now the Market Guard Opportunity Model is right around 13.9. Obviously, these numbers change, but just to give you an idea of how it works. Then we have structured notes. Why is that important? Well, you're talking about the ARC. Well, structured notes, you can pick an income note or you could pick a growth note. They're 2 totally different things, but it's basically where, let's say you have a $500,000 portfolio and you want to take $100,000 and put it with a structured note, which is a big bank, and the bank borrows the money, similar to it's a debt instrument like a bond, right? But the difference is it's sophisticated. So you got this $100,000 borrowed by a group, and let's say they tell you how you're going to make money based on certain indexes. As long as these indexes don't drop below this buffer or barrier. A buffer is where the bank will assume the first 20% loss if it's a 20% buffer, and then if it goes below 20%, the loss becomes yours. A barrier is if you break that barrier. So a lot of times they make a barrier a little higher, like 30%, because if you break the barrier, the entire loss is yours. If it goes down 25, you don't lose anything. But if it goes down 35, you lose 35%. So just to give you an idea, just to have a buffer or barrier, it's very convenient because you're actually building that arc and you're being a little bit more of a preservation tactic. So the combination between a lower beta with a good standard deviation and then adding in structured notes that have buffers and barriers, these are ways where you can have some preservation tools in your finances in addition to whether you're looking at a fixed index annuity or multi-year guarantee annuity or not.
Yeah, I went to marketguard.com, which is a great website. I encourage you to go there. And one of the things that I like best about that website is there's a little pie chart there, and it said, what is responsible for portfolio success? And you would think, grabbing NVIDIA or, having Google all these years, that would make a great portfolio. Well, true. But market timing and what you buy and when you buy it is not big in that particular pie chart. What is the biggest slice of that pie chart is what you own and how it is figured into your portfolio construction, and figuring out the risk level that's appropriate for you and for the market conditions. And to sit down and talk through some of that, that's where the real retirement conversation really starts to unfold, and it really starts to look at you as a person and customizing the plan to you. Let's sit down and have that conversation. Have Mark show you what Market Guard is all about. And it's probably best at the conference table than us trying to go into the intricacies of it right here. Give Mark a call. Here's the number. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. We'll do a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. Ask all the questions that you need. Let's get all of that out on the table. MoreToRetire.com is the website, and you can put some information in there, and the team will reach out to you. Coming up next, there are two kinds of money. Money that you go get and money that just shows up. Which would you rather have in your retirement? We'll talk about it. Coming up next on the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Marc Oslar can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Online, as always, moretoretire.com. Check out the website today. Tool around a little bit. Learn more about Mark. Find out what it's all about to sit down and actually have a real serious conversation about your retirement and how it's going to work. I'll bet you've got some questions. Let's get them out on the table. 984-300-1984. All right, said before the break, there's two kinds of money. There's money that you have to go out and get, and then there's money that just shows up every month. It's kind of strange to say this, but the delivery method of your money has a direct correlation to how you will spend. Here's what that means. Retirees that have guaranteed income that comes in and just shows up in their account every month will spend 80 cents of every dollar. But if you have a 401k or investments and you want to peel money off the top to live, people will spend 50 cents of every dollar. It seems like a pretty easy decision that I want the money to come into my account every single month, but everybody wants income, but nobody goes out and figures out how to get it. So, Mark, let's talk about that. It's going to open up some emotions here, but let's talk about getting that money into your account every month. This is P.I.G. This is the income part of our equation here.
Sure. So every once in a while, I look at lifetime income riders. They're called guaranteed lifetime income riders just simply because that's how they're labeled by the insurance company. So as long as the insurance company, is in force and they're okay, then hopefully you won't have to fall back to any of the other insurance. But ultimately, that's what you have in place. It's similar to a pension in the sense that a pension is an immediate annuity, but an income rider is a little different. It's a deferred annuity. You actually have a real value. You can grow the asset. When you turn on the income, a lot of times the income levels are kind of high and they can cut into the asset. And it might take a while. If you passed away while you still had an asset, you would still pass it to your beneficiaries. If you end up spending all the money, the income will continue to pay you just based on how the contract works. Sometimes I come across these situations where I feel like a client might need an income rider. And I came across that the other day. It was a gentleman, he had a 401k that was like 1.25 million, a wife that had a 401k that was like 500,000. He needs a certain amount of income based on some other things that he's done. And so what we were just doing is looking at how much money we need to affect into this guaranteed lifetime income rider. Well, if we do that, then there's two things that happen. So if we get enough income from this guaranteed lifetime income rider that's based on the product, and we prepare for taxes and inflation with the remainder of the money that can grow in the market, and then at the same time, we're prepared for what if Social Security drops by 28%, then we figure out all those percentages, and we're standing by our motto, preservation, income, and growth. We've prepared with the preservation tactics for making sure that he has the lifetime income rider. He knows he can pull from it. He's got all the income he needs now from all the different buckets of money. And then he can grow everything else. And then if we have to prepare for taxes and inflation, we can pull it from that growth model.
This brings up that topic of annuities, and that is one of the tools that is out there to develop income for you in retirement. And I know that every time you bring that up, you're going to get an emotional, reaction. Some people are going to say, tell me more. Other people, put a cross up in front of you like you're a vampire because they've heard bad things. But here's how I look at this, Mark, and that is this. You get in a car and you put on your seatbelt and you got airbags. You're limiting your risk in an accident. You're trying to put more of this in your favor that you'll make it through this okay. When you get into retirement, you can transfer some of this risk that you are afraid of the stock market. You can transfer some of this risk over to an insurance company. Say, I'll give you the money, you take the risk, and then pay me back. And that's my income check in retirement. That's, I think, a good way to look at this, that you're transferring some of that risk that you're afraid of in the stock market.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the insurance companies have been doing it for how long? Of course, they're good at this. So should we rely on them or ourselves? Now, I can show you alternatives. We've talked about on the show structured notes and talking about income notes. With some of them have higher probability than others, depending on how it's termed. But I can show you how those statistical probabilities look. But they're not giving you something that's just like a pension, like the annuity. And that's the difference between the two sides. I don't mind using statistical probability, but probably not for everything you've got. And that's the conversation we have about in retirement. Ultimately, if the insurance company knows what they can do and they're providing it and you have an A-rated carrier, then I'd say that you could put your head on the pillow at night and then pick it up in the morning and know that the income is going to be there. You're
listening to the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience, and online, it's moretoretire.com. I encourage you to go to the website today. That might be the one thing that you're wondering about and worried about. Right now, you get a check every 2 weeks from your employer. Then you go to retirement, you go, there's Social Security, and then what? This is the discussion of the then what. Let's have that discussion. Sit down with Mark and say, Social Security is going to get me $3,000 or $4,000 a month. That's not enough. I need another $4,000. Okay, let's have that conversation. Here's the number, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, or use the website, which is moretoretire.com. So, good friend of mine who sits next to me at work here, his son is in the service. He's getting out, and he's going to move home with him for a little while while he's trying to find an apartment. So he's going to move into the basement. So he went down to the basement to try to clear some things out, and what did he find? Boxes of old CDs, boxes of Blu-ray movies. And he looked at me, he goes, what am I going to do with these? I don't have a player anymore. This is just taking up space. Mark, do you have any of that stuff at your house still that you're holding on to that you put a bunch of money into and you go, I can't bring myself to get rid of this, but it's no good to me?
No, I'm so smart that I threw it in the storage, Randy.
And then you're paying to have it stored.
Of course. I am a highly intelligent person, really.
At least it's out from underfoot, right? Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Well, why I'm saying that is this. There are probably things within your financial life that are kind of like that box of old CDs and that box of old Blu-rays. Inherited stock from your parents. Don't ever sell the Intel. Don't ever sell, the GE. Don't ever sell the IBM. I'm giving it to you. It'll be good to you. Is it? Okay. Maybe there's an annuity with a really low interest rate or a bond with a really low interest rate that you're holding on to that you've had for a while, and now things have changed. The 401k from your old job. I could go on and on of things that are in your financial life. These are the things that you're going to see, Mark, as somebody sits down with you for the first time. Here's my financial life. So can you bring new life to these things? Is it a matter of, we got to get rid of that and put it into this? Or is there a possibility that these things could be revamped somehow?
It's interesting you bring this up because, when we look at, just in life, and you think about all the CDs, and you think about the VCRs and the Blu-ray player with the with the discs and everything, the DVDs and all that. There's actually a market for it. There are people that buy these things, restore them, make things look good because vintage comes back, just like people. They bought record players again. These things can circle right back, and it could be interesting. Probably won't last. There'd probably be a little bit of a fad stage, but to be honest with you, you might as well get at it. Well, at the same time, when you're looking at the idea of not selling this stock or not selling this position, I had this conversation with a client the other day, and we were putting together a comprehensive financial plan, and we went over the plan a few different times. And one of the situations that I looked at, and I really feel pretty strongly, is him and his wife have a portfolio of stocks that has just been growing for years and years and years. And I said, well, look, if you don't need this money, it's no big deal. Just let it sit there. And when you pass away, your kids will get a stepped up cost basis the day you guys die. And when they get that, that'll be a good tax advantage. Well, at the same time, you could look at that in real estate too. A lot of people like to pass on real estate, and they tell you not to get rid of it, but keep passing it on and get a stepped up cost basis and all that stuff too, right? But again, sometimes you get in positions where you don't want the land. You don't want the real estate. You don't want the stock. You don't want these DVDs. No, seriously. The what ifs are, what can we do about it, and how can we look at it in a way that it could be an advantage for us? So one of the things I bring up to folks is this. If you've got some appreciable stock out there, and let's say you just want to get rid of it, you're ready to just toss it, you don't mind paying the capital gains, but it just kind of stinks because it's going to be high. Well, let's look at that and say, what if we could look at a fixed index annuity with a large bonus that's an actual real premium bonus? The reason why I bring it up is because premium bonuses are higher than I've ever seen them in my entire 25-year career. I've never seen them this high. Well, premium bonus would just go straight into the contract, and maybe it'll cover some or maybe all of that capital gains, right? And if it does, you say, well, then that money will eventually be taxable. Well, of course it's eventually going to be taxable. But you know what you're going to do? The bonus will grow tax deferred if you're not pulling it out. And then any gains will grow tax deferred if you're not pulling it out. And then you let the kids deal with the tax problem, right? Mm-hmm. At least you got it out of there. You did something. Or maybe you just decide, since I did that, since I got the bonus out, maybe I'll make a plan where I slowly pull the bonus out, and it's nice little income for us, and we grow the asset too at the same time. There's so many things you can do here. There's a lot of things you can do, and you don't have to get stuck in the mud or have things getting all dusty. We can create a new plan.
It's an old 401k. I mean, you can roll that into a personal IRA or brokerage account, things like that. An annuity with a low interest rate, that could be moved into maybe a new annuity with a better interest rate. So there are ways to take that and give them new life. One thing that occurs to me as you were talking through that, Mark, is it's very common for people to build some kind of a will when they're 25, 30 years old, when they're still having kids, and you name a guardian for your kids and you feel good about that. But then you never touch that thing for 40 years. And now you're 60 years old and you probably have new needs for a will, and it's going to be completely different than the one that you had. Now you just got to kind of revamp that and say, okay, we got to start from scratch and we got to update this thing. There's probably that aspect of things as well.
Most definitely. So I'm glad you brought that up. Glad you brought up the old 401k. I'm glad you brought up the multi-year guarantee annuity versus the CDs, because it seems like, multi-year guarantee annuities are showing much better rates than CDs. 401k, old 401k, why would you let it sit there in an employer-sponsored plan when you can open yourself up to all these other investment opportunities over in a new IRA, a traditional IRA, a rollover IRA, and then is your estate plan up to date? Well, let's have that conversation. I have a group of attorneys right down the road from me. They're pretty fantastic. And I really appreciate what they do for my clients. It's great because they can do some estate planning, and then they can also at the same time do some tax advantage strategies, because one of the attorneys is also a CPA. So having that feather in the cap. And then, of course, they also do some real estate transaction closings. So just knowing folks like this, being able to bring clients in, sit down with the attorneys myself sometimes just to have conversations ahead of time to see what's the best avenue for the person. And that's what we do. So why get stuck with the old estate plan as well? And that you can always update that.
Yeah, I think that there's a part of that first or second meeting that you have with people that it does involve. It used to be an old shoebox. Now it's probably a plastic box or something like that. That all these statements that you have that you've been dealing with all these years, and you just stick them in a drawer or someplace like that. Now you figure out exactly what you've got, and I forgot about that, and I forgot about that, and that all comes into play. And you sit down and say, let's get some organization to your financial life, and let's get a plan for your retirement life. And that is what this show is all about, is to sit down and give you some organization, give you some confidence as you go into this next phase of your life. Because, for the last, 40 years, you've been working for somebody else, and somebody else has been the CEO of your money because they've been paying you. Now you are the CEO of your financial life and figuring out how you're going to get paid. And for some of us, that's a little difficult to figure out. Let's get some help. You're going to go through retirement once. Marc goes through it every day with people, and he's seen an awful lot. Let's sit down and talk through it. MoreToRetire.com is the website. Go there. You'll see a place for you to put some information in there. Marc and the team reach out to you and say, okay, how can we help? And that's really what this is. No cost or obligation. Let's talk about your retirement and get some of your questions answered. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 is the number, or again, MoreToRetire.com. So when's the best time to sit down and talk to a financial advisor? Is it that you get a certain amount of wealth? I get $500,000. Now's the time. Or is it a certain age? I'm 62. Now's the time. Yeah. There's a little bit of that involved. But Marc, what would you say? Do people come to you because they look at you and say, it's just time? Or do they look at you because a big event has taken place? Or do they look at you and say, holy crap, the market just went down 30%. I can't handle this. Help me. What is it that why do they come through your door?
I don't know. Just get in here. Come on in. Let's get on a Zoom call or get in my office. Let's sit down now. Right? No, seriously, I want to meet everybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's great to know that a life event changes things. It does. You come into some inheritance. You realize that you're getting tight. You're getting close to, 5, 7, 8, 10 years away from retirement. And you really just want to start making a plan, or you feel like the advisor you're working with maybe is not focusing the way you're focusing on things, and maybe you don't have that connection. Let's have a conversation and see if I'm a fit for you. I would love to just talk to you and understand what is it that you're facing, because everybody's situation is unique. And your situation, you could have $500,000 saved for retirement and say, I don't know if I could do this. Well, it's all about your expenses, other income you might have, things like that. You might have $1 million. I don't know if I can do this. Well, all we have to do is have a simple conversation. I might be able to tell you whether you can or you can't, or when you can, and how you can do it. It's really not hard to affect these numbers and help you. My objective is to meet as many people as possible and affect their lives in a positive way. One way or another, if we've worked together or not, I'm going to always tell you my office is always open, and you're always welcome to come visit, and I'd love to get to know you.
I do the show with you, Marc, and, I will whisper and say I'm not too far away from retirement, because Marc doesn't like me to say that. But I have questions. I mean, it gets a little overwhelming sometimes when you get close to retirement and then you figure out, okay, I got to make myself a paycheck. When am I going to go for Social Security? What's an RMD? He said IRMA. Who's that? I mean, there's a lot of details, and all of a sudden it becomes overwhelming, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I'm not ready for this. I'm not qualified for this. I mean, you can read all you want to, but go ahead. Go try to figure out what to do about Medicare and whether to do a supplemental plan or an Advantage plan and when to do that. And try to figure out all this. It's a lot. And Mark, I think that in itself, you kind of feel overwhelmed and you go, I got to go see somebody. I think that's got to be some of the reason that people come and see you.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about anxiousness, right? People are anxious about retiring, if they can retire on time. I haven't thought about all these numbers, these figures, the expenses, the taxes, the inflation, all this stuff. Yeah. Don't let it overwhelm you. And the Bible says, be anxious for nothing, okay? Does it mean do nothing? No, it just means be anxious for nothing. You still have to do something. It's good to step into it and actually do something about it. And if you need my help, I'm here. I'm here to have that conversation with you. We want to discuss your personal situation. You might have some debt that you want to get rid of. We can probably help you with that with a little bit of a planning. That it all falls into place about how we can go about it. I have clients, they have IRA real estate, and they're concerned about what if they made it a personal residence and then they have to go declare it, pay taxes. How do they go about that? Well, there's a lot of conversations that we have to have in order to understand what is the best case scenario for the person. And that's what we do here. Our objective is to put your needs first and to figure out what it is your needs are. And if we've answered all your questions, can we get you the income you need in retirement? We'll take care of all of your expenses. Have we prepared for taxes and inflation? And have we used preservation tools to do that? And yes, we're not against growing and the economy and the market, so we want growth positions as well.
I saw somebody speak one time, and that question was asked, and it was, when's the best time to see a financial advisor? And his answer was this: when you look at your account and you say, if we went through 2008 again, I don't think I could retire. That would really hurt. It's time to see a financial advisor. If you have $500,000 or $1 million saved and we have a 50% pullback, do you think you can still retire? Maybe not. And if you can't, that means you probably have a lot of risk with your money and you probably want to adjust that. And it's time to start talking to somebody. It might be a big life event. Maybe there's a divorce. Maybe there's a death in the family. You lose a spouse. You thought you were going to be 2 people in retirement. Now you're 1 person in retirement. Is that going to work? So, Mark, there's a lot of different ways that people come to this decision. The main thing, though, is to come to this decision and say, I need some planning. I need to know what's ahead of me, and I need to know that I'm covered if something crazy happens, market-wise or life-wise.
Yes, it's okay to say I need help. There's nothing wrong with saying I need help. If you admit that you need help somewhere and you're praying about it and you're looking for it, it's okay, because that means that you could find it through an advisor. It doesn't have to be me, but I would love to meet you and be a part of that. Just being able to do this for a living is such a blessing. To be able to look somebody in the face and say, instead of Donald Trump saying you're fired, I'm saying you're retired. That's, I know. I love another it. Dad joke. It's terrible.
I love it. I'm a dad.
But it's great. It doesn't get better than that, Randy. And that's a part of what we do here. And that's what we look forward to at the Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Go to the website. Learn about us. Look at our process. Go to more2retire.com. Look at our process. Look at what we do. You can always listen to this radio show right on the website under media as well. But, look at the About page. Look at us, who we are, what we do. And you know what? I'm a married man. Wife Amy, she works with me. My oldest daughter, Ariana, works with me. And my next 3, Callista, she's 21. She's at ECU. She's got another year left. And I've got Finley and Stella, 13 and 9. I'm going to be working a long time, Randy.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to look at it. Mark is going to be here through your retirement, probably. Give Mark a call. Give him a look on the website. And let's talk about your retirement today. More2retire.com. Once again, more2retire.com. Or use 984-300 1984. 984-300-1984. That is all the time that we have on the show for this week. We appreciate you tuning in. If you tuned in through part of it, go to the website and you'll see the place where you can go to iTunes or Spotify, and you can go there on your own and you can hear the podcast of this show as well. 984-300-1984. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Marc Oslar Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Marc Oslar Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.